Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I too want to congratulate you and your staff for the hard work that they put into getting us where we are today, and to say that it just isn't accurate the argument that's been made by some of our colleagues that somehow this was rushed upon us. I came on the Senate Finance Committee in 2011. Since 2011, we've had north of 70 hearings, 70 hearings, Senate Finance Committee hearings on tax reform. And I've sat through a good number of those, most of those I might add. And I don't think there's a single theme that's explored in this tax reform bill that wasn't covered in those hearings. And then in 2015, under the chairman's leadership, we created 5 working groups which examined in great detail every aspect of the tax code. I had the privilege of leading, along with Senator Cardin, a working group that looked at business taxation. And staff and members spent literally hundreds of hours diving into the details, the finer points of a lot of these issues, and then filing a report and making recommendations. There has been a ton of work put into getting where we are today, and I thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And let me just say, too, that, one of the things that point that's been made here again is this is a typical throwaway line for Democrats, and that is that this is all tax cuts for the rich. As has been pointed out by some of my colleagues here, this will deliver tax relief to middle-income families. That is an objective and indisputable fact. You are nearly doubling the standard deduction, increasing the child tax credit, lowering rates. Middle-income families are going to get tax relief from this effort. And boy, do they need it, because a lot of American families are living paycheck to paycheck. In fact, a recent survey had 50% of American families saying that they're living paycheck to paycheck and that they're only one crisis, or one, I should say, incident away from a financial crisis. So this is about putting more money in their pockets so they can deal with their day-to-day issues in their families and allow them to have bigger paychecks and more take-home pay. But secondly, it's about growth. This fundamentally is about economic growth. Why? Because we've been having these abysmal growth rates for the last 8 years of 1.5% to 2%. And the Congressional Budget Office has said we're going to grow at less than 2% for the next decade. Well, I just don't think 1.8%, 1.9% growth is good enough. That should not be the new normal in this country. We've got to get this economy growing at a faster rate. And what happens when the economy is growing at a faster rate? Well, it means that businesses are expanding and growing their operations. It means the demand for labor goes up. When the demand for labor goes up, the price goes up. And what's the result of that? Higher wages. That's what this is about. Higher wages for American families who literally haven't had a pay raise in nearly a decade. That's what economic growth does for an economy. And we know that tax reform will lead to greater economic growth, because we know right now that our tax code is completely non-competitive in the global marketplace. If we don't get competitive in the global marketplace, we're going to continue to hemorrhage jobs, hemorrhage companies, hemorrhage profits, hemorrhage investments to other parts around the world. We have to make America an attractive place to invest if we're going to get normal growth back into our economy. And then the issue, of course, that's been raised too is about deficits, which I've been here long enough now to know that we don't have 60 votes to cut spending. We certainly don't have 60 votes to do anything about reforming entitlement programs. We probably don't have 51 votes to do anything about reforming entitlement programs because we just don't. I mean, I've been here long enough to know nobody wants to take this issue seriously, which we have to do if we're going to get our arms around making our spending, government programs sustainable in the long term. But the one thing that we can do through tax reform, if we get greater growth in the economy, is start to generate more revenue for the government. 1 percentage point increase in the growth in the GDP will generate an additional $3 trillion over the next decade in terms of revenue coming into the government. If we want to deal with deficits, if we want to deal with debt, we got to get growth back. And the only way we get growth back in this economy, Mr. Chairman, is to start doing the types of things, putting policies in place that are going to make America an attractive place to invest. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership on this, and I'll mention a couple of things. The INVEST Act that you incorporated into this legislation would simplify accounting rules for businesses, substantially accelerate cost recovery for small and medium-sized businesses, which was a bill that I introduced. You also included the GIG Act, and put simply, this is legislation that addresses worker classification by creating a safe harbor for those who want to work as an independent contractor. Those are both important pieces of legislation for small and medium-sized businesses. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say again, you know, if you look at what we're trying to accomplish here, it's higher wages, better paying jobs, more growth in the economy, tax relief for middle-income families, and keeping jobs here in this country. That's what this exercise is about. And if we're going to be competitive in the global marketplace, we simply have to reform our tax code and simplify it. Mr. Chairman, with that, I will yield.